The Japanese destroyer's searchlight cut across the water like the finger of death. For a heartbeat, we held our breath. We were 80 feet of plywood and gasoline, drifting in the moon's shadow off Vela Lavella. Behind us, 3 transports, nearly 8,000 soldiers, unaware their voyage would end in the black water of the Solomon Sea. It was July 19, 1943. In 4 minutes, we would strike. In 4 minutes, the night would stop being safe. This is the story of how small wooden boats, crewed by volunteers and spare parts, forced a powerful navy to fear the dark.
For the Imperial Japanese Navy, night was an advantage. In the waters around the Solomon Islands, they had turned darkness into a weapon. The Tokyo Express, fast, nighttime runs, moved troops and supplies along narrow channels with surprising speed and near impunity. Japanese crews trained for years in night fighting. They learned to hunt by eye, by silhouette, by the memory of wakes and waves. Allied commanders could not match that instinctive mastery. Our cruisers and destroyers were designed for open ocean battle lines. In the maze of reefs and volcanic islands, those great ships became lumbering targets. At night, radar sometimes helped, but not enough. The Americans needed something else. Small, fast, and unexpected.
The answer would come from an unlikely place: boatyards on the U.S. Gulf Coast and the ingenuity of engineers who took aircraft engines and wood and made something the Japanese never expected. The patrol torpedo boat, the PT, looked wrong for war. 80 feet long, 20 feet wide, built of laminated mahogany plywood. Wood where others expected steel. 3 Packard V-12 engines, converted airplane power plants, pushed these boats to over 45 knots. They carried 4 21-inch torpedoes, a 20mm autocannon, and .50 caliber machine guns. In a sustained fight, their ammunition lasted about 15 minutes. After that, you either ran for home or you became part of the night. Volunteers filled the ranks. The Navy wanted men who could navigate without instruments, who could take apart an engine and put it back together on a pitching deck, who could live in 36 square feet of bunks and still fight. Our crews were a strange, brilliant mix: former professors, racing engine builders, ex-submariners, city kids, farm boys. We trained at Melville, Rhode Island, under Commander James "Jim" Patterson, men who learned to think like pirates. His message was simple: don't fight fair, don't be predictable, make the enemy afraid of the dark. We learned to shoot torpedoes while bouncing across waves at 40 knots. We learned to navigate by the stars and the hum of our engines. We learned to move like ghosts. The first patrols were brutal classrooms. On July 5, 1943, our squadron tried to intercept a convoy near Visu. A Japanese float plane spotted us. In minutes, 4 destroyers bore down with searchlights blazing. PT-158 took a direct hit from a 5-inch shell and disintegrated. 12 men gone in an instant. We spent 4 hours dodging reefs and shells to escape. No torpedoes fired, no victory, only loss. That night, Mac gathered us and said, quietly, "We can't fight them like destroyers. We don't have the armor. We must hit from ambush, then vanish." We adapted. We learned to use island radar shadows. We discovered that shutting down 2 engines and coasting on 1 made our acoustic signature near silent. We invented simple light signal codes to coordinate attacks. Each mistake became a lesson written in blood. Intelligence made the difference. Australian coast watchers on distant hills risked execution to radio us convoy positions. Solomon Islanders paddled out with news, sometimes at the cost of their lives. Pearl Harbor's intercepts handed us schedules from time to time. We learned to marry local knowledge and crude radio to bold tactics. Coast watchers warned of a major reinforcement convoy running Blackett Strait on the night of July 18, 19. Multiple transports, minimal escorts, forced through narrow waters, a perfect trap. Our squadron volunteered, PT-164, PT-168, PT-171. In command, Lieutenant Commander Arthur Mack McPhersonson. The objective, sink the convoy or stop it at all costs. Commander William Bill Specht was blunt. Gentlemen, this convoy cannot reach VA. I don't care if you have to ram those transports, they go to the bottom tonight. We slipped our moorings at 20:30 hours, engines muffled, moving in column, taut as a drawn wire. By 23:47, the Coast Watcher reported 3 large ships, 2 escorts, bearing 280, speed 18 knots, range 15 miles. The hunt began. At 2,000 yards, we heard their engines, a deep, steady thrum. At 1,500, we could see silhouettes against the stars. At 1,000 yards, Mack gave the signal. 3 clicks on the radio. The world narrowed to the roar of our engines. We surged forward, 40 knots inside the convoy before they could respond. I gripped the twin .50 mount until my knuckles ached. Paddy O'Brien launched our first 2 Mark 13s at 600 yards, impossibly close. The torpedo slapped into the black water and left twin phosphorescent wakes. The first transport, converted liner, over 3,000 men, blew apart. The second, loaded with ammunition and fuel, detonated like a volcano. Flames leapt high enough to light the stars. The destroyer scrambled, searchlights stinging the night, but their big guns could not depress low enough, and firing risked hitting their own transports. One destroyer attempted to ram us. We twisted the helm and missed by less than 10 feet. I emptied my belt into its bridge as we passed, sparks and steel and shouting. PT-171 was not so lucky. Under a searchlight, its bow was shredded. Joe Antonelli had to abort, streaming smoke and taking on water. We launched our remaining torpedoes as we fled. 2 passed harmlessly astern of the last ship. We limped away, engines screaming, shell splashes tearing the night around us.
2 transports sank. Roughly 6,000 Japanese soldiers never reached their destination. The 3rd transport, terrified, reversed course and steamed back toward Rabaul. For the Imperial Navy, the myth of night invincibility had been shattered in a single terrifying hour. We regrouped 5 miles south of the engagement. PT-171, badly damaged, needed help. We came alongside, transferred wounded, and sealed holes with mattresses, planks, and prayer. PT-168 had shrapnel through the superstructure. Our own boat? Scorch marks, a burned-out gun, a handful of punctures. We were alive. We had done what we set out to do. But the return trip was hell. Japanese float planes scoured the straits at first light. We hid in palm shadows, engines off, trying to breathe like something not worth finding. 14 hours after our engagement, which should have been 3 hours, we staggered back to Renova. The debriefing was exhaustive. Every detail would be fed to every PT squadron in the Pacific. Japanese communications soon mentioned new secret weapons, an enemy they could not categorize. Submarine? Mine? For the first time, the Imperial Navy was afraid of the dark. The tactical gain was huge, the psychological blow even greater. The Japanese doubled and tripled escorts, delayed convoys, and ramped up night reconnaissance. Supplies and reinforcements arrived less often, and when they did, at greater risk and cost. Frontline units went without men and ammunition at critical moments. On the American side, the PT boat program grew fast.
Bases were established across the Solomons and New Guinea. Boats were upgraded with armor plates, improved torpedoes and radar. Training codified the guerrilla tactics we'd learned in blood and salt. The exchange rate was brutal. 2 weeks after our victory, PT-166 hit a mine. Everyone lost. PT-162 was ambushed during daylight when its engine failed. Joey Antonelli, whose courage helped win the night, would later fall to a sniper while refueling at a forward base. By October, my squadron had lost 7 boats and 73 men. We had also sunk or damaged over 40 enemy vessels and prevented thousands of soldiers from reaching battle. The price was paid in names on memorial walls and in silence on quiet nights. After the war, the men scattered. Max stayed in the Navy and commanded destroyer squadrons in Korea. Dutch Vandenberg returned to Yale and became a prominent oceanographer. Charlie Mendoza built race engines in Los Angeles. Patty O'Brien became the Navy's torpedo expert. The PT boat legacy spread, its DNA visible in modern fast attack craft, missile boats, and asymmetric naval doctrine. The lesson was clear. Innovation, audacity, and courage can beat size and tradition. We were boys pressed into men on wooden decks, playing with deadly toys. We struck from darkness because the darkness was where we were strongest. The Japanese learned to fear the night they once owned. From those shadows, we struck, and history remembers.